signed. That night, the delivery or preliminary delivery was started. Up to this point, we have delivered more than 3,000, between 2,000 and 3,000 of them, waiting for the complete finish on the 14th of October, when all provinces and all stations will have their kits. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Minister. The Honourable Breed.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Honourable Minister, do you then not agree that that omissions such as the fact that 70% of the police stations did not have these rape kits due to the cancellation of all of these contracts and all of these things shows that the safety and security of women in South Africa is not a priority for the state? Thank you, Madam Chair.
The Honourable, the Minister.
No, I do not agree. The question is asked if I do agree. I do not agree, especially with the last portion of the question. In South Africa, the question of the safety of women is taken very serious. That's why we have created again and revitalized the FCS unit. For last 4 years, FCS unit has sent to prison life sentence for 4,200 individuals on life sentence, not just in prison, life sentence. And if you speak to the Department of Justice, the conviction is 74% because there is a concentration on these cases. Indeed, I fully agree with you that the non-availability, because there was a suspicion of corruption that had to be investigated. It has been investigated. It has been found that it's clean. That's why the big bulk for next 3 years, we're having the full order of that. But women issues seriously taken care of. Thanks.
Thank you. The Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Minister, clearly there appears to be a problem in terms of supply chain, poor management. What measures are you putting in place to ensure that this never happens again where police stations run out of these rape kits? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Well, indeed, that is true. We have a new CFO in the South African Police who seems to be doing very well, the young lady. One thing that he has suggested to both the National Commission and the Minister is that the supply chain must be professionalized. You don't just take a person that is there because he's a police officer and goes for supply chain management. So we have requested that he action that, and then we have a very professional supply chain management that we believe that we won't have this problem in future. Thanks.
The last supplementary goes to the Honourable Mente.
Enkosi Speaker. Minister, we know very well the reasons why the contracts were cancelled is because of corruption. And we know very well that those people that ordered unnecessary lot of DNA kits at that time and they expired in some storage somewhere, still they serve somewhere in the public service, no one have ever arrested them. And they didn't even pay back the money they took through that corruption. But the question here today is that the 4,000 odds that you are attributing to the successes of the FCS, I agree with you, but that's just 2%. That is 2% of the conviction rate in South Africa. And 10% that goes to trial, 8% falls away. Why? Out of the rape kits where you get lucky and get an available rape kit at the police station, it goes to a lab that is dysfunctional, like the Pretoria lab. It's very dysfunctional, it doesn't work.
Honourable
Therefore, when it
Mente.
goes to court, the evidence is already contaminated with.
Honourable Mente, your supplementary.
Okay. When are you going to engage or embark on a deviation to procure new DNA kits for all police stations and deliver them within at least the space of this month. Thank you very much.
Honourable Mente, next time keep within your time restrictions. Honourable Minister.
I know this subject is very close to your heart. Maybe that's why you don't listen very well on it. The answer has been given that on the 14th of October, the complete package will be delivered, and that contract is 3 years to come, which means at least in next 3 years to come, we're not going to have problem. But secondly, you asked the question to say 4,000 is 2%. I want to repeat, 4,000 are lifers, are not people that have been sent to prison. Have been sent to prison for life, illegal jail. And I have given the answer to say, Department of Justice has a 74% conviction on this matter. That's an answer that I've given. If you have a better research on that, I don't have a problem. I'm giving you the figures, 74% conviction, 4,200 is life sentences only, not people that are sent in prison. And on the 14th of October, the whole package will be there and will be delivered for next 3 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Honourable members, we have members of parliament from Uganda. They're sitting up there. They are led by Dr. Michael Bukenya Iga, who is the chairperson of the Portfolio Committee of Health there. You're welcome, honourable members. We proceed, honourable members, with the question put by the Honourable Msana to the Minister, International Relations and Cooperation. Minister.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Speaker, the matter referred to relates to government's long-established commitment to enhance efforts directed at achieving peace and an end to conflict on the continent. In particular, the project that is being referred to in the question is related to the specific attention that we are giving to the development of the role of women in the resolution of conflict on the continent and in participation in negotiations that give life to new legislative and other arrangements in countries that have previously been in conflict. The approval of the project, therefore, was on the basis that it is directly aligned to the strategic objectives of the fund, which are contained in the ARF Act, Act 51 of 2000. These objectives are the promotion of cooperation between the Republic and other countries, particularly between the Republic and countries on the African continent, promotion of socio-economic development, and integration. The primary beneficiaries of the project are the over 1,000 women from the continent who will participate in the annual African Women in Dialogue Forum, which is hosted in South Africa annually. The women, 15 from each country on the African continent, represent the most diverse and representative cross-section of their societies. And as I have said, particular emphasis is given to women from communities that are directly impacted by war, by displacement, by economic deprivation, by discrimination based on gender or indeed disability. And these categories of communities are targeted for socio-economic development and support with integration post-conflict. With respect to the second part of the question, no other applicants came forward to run the initiative. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The Honourable Msani.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Minister, we do not have a problem with the program, but what we do have a problem with is 37 million rand, which gets awarded to Zanele Mbeki, a spouse of a former head of state. What we are saying is there are equally competent organizations run in this country that have no connection to state power that can run this program for the women of Africa. So my question is, what perception are we creating to the society out there if we are going to award, kushukuthi le mali izohlala irounda la ekhaya, no woman out there or no any other organization can be recognized by this house so that they can benefit in this programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honourable the Minister.
Abafaza engikhuluma ngabo bavela kwi-organization eziningi la eMzansi wase-Afrika namanye amazwe we-Afrika. Ukhipha igama elinye dithi abekho abanye abaze babeka i-application ngoba zonke izinto zenzwa ngokuvuleka, uzibeka emaphepheni uthi izani manifuna ukwenza lo msebenzi. Mabengazi ngizobalandela kanjani. So noma ukhathaza ngegama siyenze i-advertisement silandele umthetho. Akukhethwanga umuntu, kukhethwe i-proposal ehambisana kakuhle nomsebenzi osifuna ukuwenza. Ngiyabonga.
What is your point of order, Ms.
The
Msani?
minister is misleading the house. ARF did say they did not request for any quotations for this.
Honourable member, if you think the minister is misleading the house, please forward to my office a substantive motion. The next member who has a supplementary is the Honourable Chetty.
Thank you, Speaker. The deliberate delaying tactic of presenting the SATPA bill before this House by your predecessor is evident that it is to benefit cadre benefactor organizations. When will your department ensure that the SATPA bill is passed, as this will regulate ARF funding and also prevent further funding abuse to cadre benefactors? Which unit within DIRCO will be responsible for monitoring this project, as the current CFO has proven to be compromised in view of the allegations of irregular expenditure of 417 million in the AG's report against him? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
Speaker, I don't know what the honourable member is referring to when he speaks of cadre benefactors. I have no idea what he's talking about. The response is, as I have stated it, there are a range of initiatives that we undertake. The DDG responsible for the diplomatic training program and the acting chief operating officer are responsible for implementation of the program. It's running exceptionally well. We also have the annual Gertrude Shope dialogue forum, and there is no cadre beneficiary. What is happening is women on the African continent are receiving training in skills that allow them to participate in negotiations out of conflict, and also to ensure that they are not merely peacemakers, but that they become part of the parliaments and the governments that follow the achievement of a peaceful status. This is a very important contribution that South Africa is making to women who live in countries that are in conflict, to women who live as refugees, to women who become victims of war, to women who wish to have a role in their society. This is what this initiative does. It doesn't do cadre benefacting. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The Honourable Mishwe.
Thank you, Chairperson. Looking at how the ARF fund was spent, it is not only women from countries that are in conflict that have benefited. As an example, Cuba received an economic package of 350 million rands, and the government of Guinea received 53 million rands, and 92 million was given to Malawi towards their social economic development. South Sudan has also benefited and received 96 million rands from the fund towards humanitarian assistance. Now I want to know that are these figures wrong, and are all these funds that were given to these different countries, were they only towards women, or were they used for economic development as the report is stating? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
I'm sure that the Reverend has not looked at the question in the question paper, which asks about a Women in Dialogue program, which is directed at women in Africa and issues of conflict and post-conflict resolution. So the question in the question paper is about that specific program. The programs you refer to do go through the ARF processes. There is a review committee that determines allocations to countries that require assistance. It's important to point out that we do not have financial allocations made. It would be humanitarian assistance, purchase such as with South Sudan of wheat and other food items for displaced persons and refugees in camps who are victims of conflict. All the aid is humanitarian linked, coming out of the Renaissance Fund, and every allocation falls within the conditions in the statute that gave life to the ARF. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The last supplementary on this question goes to Ms. Mende.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Minister, South Africa has had so many dialogues. The diaspora has had so many dialogues. Don't you think that it's time to change the approach? Because when you are subsidizing dialogues for people to go and do a talk shop to victims of rape, to victims of all horrendous crimes, especially to women and children, don't you think it's time to build safe homes for women to get away from abusive relationships that they stay in because their men are paying for the children's school fees, they are supporting them, and they can't separate themselves from the perpetrators? Don't you think it's time to put that money into safety homes? Don't you think it's time to put that money into schools
Honourable
that will
Mente,
keep the
your
children
time
of
has
South Africa
expired.
safe away from rapists? Thank you.
Honourable Minister, it's a new question, but you are at liberty to respond. Can I address this? Ms. Mende, the question is about women's dialogue on conflict resolution. It is, no. It is outward looking. You are referring to issues which are very hurtful to us this month, this year, inside South Africa. And that is why I'm saying you are at liberty, Minister.
On a point of order, Chair.
Thank you very much, Chair.
No, I'm not taking any point of order. I have ruled on this matter. Please proceed, Minister.
It's
Not
on a
taking any
different
point of
matter,
order.
Chair.
No, I'm not taking any point of order because, no. I'm not protecting the minister.
Speaker,
No.
I raised the question, and the question is about Zanele Mpegi receiving 37 million.
Exactly.
The question is not about the program, but the question is about Zanele Mpegi being a beneficiary of 37 million rand. Thank you very much.
Honorable Msane, thank you for bringing us back there because that is the question. And the last supplementary does not address that. It asks about something which we are all concerned about. No. Minister, please proceed. Minister, please proceed.
It's very difficult, but let me proceed. Firstly, Speaker, as you've indicated, I suga now, hey, money, how, you.
Honorable Minister,
Speaker, as,
Honorable Minister, let me,
no,
honorable members, let us not go there.
you know, you.
Please continue with your response, ma'am.
Oh, you, Benmange. Speaker, let me begin by saying that I cannot disagree with Ms. Mente. She is correct that much more must be done, not by government or MPs alone, but our entire society, to ensure that women are safe wherever they wish to be. This is something I have said in the House before, and so I fully agree with what she has said. However, when you have a situation of conflict, such as in South Sudan, dialogue can never be enough until there is peace. And that issue of dialogue for peace cannot stop at the point of peace. What must happen is that women must enjoy the same opportunity you and I enjoy to be in Parliament and to govern our country. This is what we are striving for, that women are not victims, they are not merely participants around the table dialoguing on peace, but they are active participants post-conflict in the rebuilding of their society and in all the institutions that manage a society and ensure that it no longer returns to peace. This is an absolutely vital role that I believe South Africa must have an interest in and should execute. As to whether the programs are good or need to be improved, should there be good ideas, you are most welcome to give us your proposals. But I do not disagree. Well, it's because many people are not used to dialoguing, and it's part of what we've got to teach our nation, that you can talk to each other and resolve problems. You don't have to pull out a weapon.
Thank you,
You don't
Honourable
have to
Minister.
insult. You don't have to injure.
Honourable members, the next question is Ms. Lehuase. This question is addressed to the Minister of Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Late registration of births is the registration of births after the legally specified time period. According to Section 3 of the Births and Deaths Registration Amendment Act 18 of 2010, all births must be registered within 30 days from date of birth. Department has since 2010 been in a campaign to encourage people to register births within 30 days. The department has made significant advancement, including reducing the number of late registration of births. For example, in the 2010-2011 financial year, 586,377 births were registered through the LRB process. Those are people below the age of 14 years. Whereas the number of births registered through the same process has reduced significantly to about 175,659 in the 17-18 financial year. For those above the age of 18, they were standing at 190,091 in the 2010-2011 financial year, which was reduced to 25,514 in the 17-18 financial year. The trend therefore shows that in South Africa, there is a pattern of reducing in the number of persons who are registered to the LRB. The significant process is attributed to a constant communication drive and awareness programs to encourage people to register the births of their children within 30 days. In order to prevent late registration of children, we are now planning to roll out Home Affairs related service centers to other birth centers. Our intention is to immediately register children as and when they are born. This has also been made a ministerial priority. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The Honourable Lehuase.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Deputy Minister, concerning the progress that has been made thus far by the Department of Home Affairs in providing efficient and effective services, has the department managed to improve its turnaround time and processes in issuing the identity documents, the passport and birth certificates? Furthermore, does the department intend in invalidating all fraudulent documented IDs, citizenship acquired through corrupt means? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. The Honourable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Yes, we do enter into investigation in instances where there are cases that are reported to us of people who are in possession of fraudulent documentation, to the extent that we even revoke citizenship of anyone who might have obtained those documents fraudulently. There are instances where in the past, we have had IDs which were fraudulently obtained in terms of being fake. In some instances, faces were removed. We have improved from that particular system. Today, we issue smart card IDs which are very secure with very strong identification features, which is a highly secure document that we issue, which is a smart ID card. In terms of turnaround times, we have also prioritized the issue of war on queues to make sure that our citizens get the best service. We are also continuing with the improvement of our services, which we must do consistently in order to improve customer care. Thank you.
Thank you. The next supplementary goes to the Honourable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. To you, Honourable Deputy Minister, on the issue of fraudulent documents, well, of course, it goes without saying if you enter South Africa illegally, you don't have the right paperwork, and so you'll probably not be paying your taxes. But Mr. Sipho Zungu, the chairperson of the All Truck Drivers Association, recently said that government was allowing companies to employ undocumented migrants to avoid compliance with South African labour laws, creating an unfair advantage for these undocumented migrants. This, in part, has led to the tensions we have seen in the trucking industry. Do you therefore agree that your department's failure to properly document people coming in and out of the country has been partly to blame for the crisis we've seen in the trucking industry? And if so, what do you intend doing to solve this crisis, if you can list the interventions that your department will be taking? Thank you.
The Honourable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We have been running operations with reference to illegal truck drivers. One of them, we conducted them in toll gates, various toll gates around the country. And in instances where we find illegal immigrants who are working without the necessary set document of papers, we do take them and then deport them to their necessary countries. We also ensure that we find the necessary employers who have employed people who do not have documentation. Just about 2 weeks ago, we ran an operation here in Cape Town, and our inspectorate divisions continue to carry out that responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Deputy Minister, I know that you're new to the department, and the department faces various challenges in a lot of its home affairs branches. Can you tell us whether you have sat down, went through to these different departments, different branches, and established what is really the problem, and what mechanisms are you putting in place to try and deal with the challenges at the different home affairs branches, particularly Amgeni Road and others? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The Honourable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you. We have sat down with the various units of the department, and we have developed strategies to deal with the issues. And we recently had a strategic session where we are planning on how to deliver better service. In some of the areas we have gone directly to the branches in question and made interventions. For instance, in Umgeni, I'm very proud that after having identified some of the issues, we had the youth of Home Affairs that actually spent a weekend dedicating their time for free to assist young people. So we are not just talking, there are interventions that are being made in the immediate whilst we are dealing with the long-term strategies. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The last supplementary to the Honourable Thring. The last supplementary.
Thank you. Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, the ACDP welcomes the establishment of the service points at hospitals to assist with the registration of the births of infants. But noting that Home Affairs has become lightning rods for criminal elements, and many ordinary citizens that seek the services of Home Affairs have been assaulted, robbed of their belongings, and this includes senior members of Home Affairs officials, for example, in Pinetown. What combined measures with the South African Police Services as well as other crime-fighting units have been taken, if any, to keep our citizens safe in and around Home Affairs offices throughout the country? Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you. If there are incidences where the member is saying there are officials of Home Affairs who have been involved in wrongdoing, we encourage the member to come forward and give us that information so that we can act decisively on those members. Part of the services that we do is that we do conduct surprise visits to various branches to make sure that our employees in those branches are kept feeling the pressure that we are there to monitor at any given moment in time. Thank you.
The next question.
Speaker, sorry, on a point of order, Speaker.
What is your point of order?
I think the minister misunderstood my question. I did not say that members from Home Affairs were involved in wrongdoing. I said that officials from Home Affairs have also been victims of being assaulted by criminal elements. So the question is, what is being done to improve the safety of our citizens? What measures have been taken by Home Affairs together with other crime-fighting units to improve the safety of our citizens? That was the question. I think he misunderstood me. Thank you, Speaker.
Deputy Minister, is that how you understood it?
Yes.
So you misunderstood the supplementary?
Yes.
You are putting me in a fix.
No, I think the question is that there are members who are employed by Home Affairs who have been victims of criminal activity. In some instances, for instance, I think in the past couple of days, there was one of our offices that was destroyed in Johannesburg. And I believe that the issue of crime and policing falls within the Ministry of Police. We do have security in our offices to deal with making sure that we provide a safe working environment for all of our employees. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is put to the Minister of Police by the Honourable Majosi.
On the 24th of July 2019, Mr. Muyazi, who originates from Bonambi, was stabbed and killed nearby by the Richards Bay taxi rank. Anger within the community who sympathized with the deceased. Subsequently, the community included operators from the taxi industry mobilized to avenge the killing. The suspects were the homeless people, and the community were convinced that the murder was linked to illegal drug use. A combination of the South African and foreign nationals are suspected to be dealing in drugs and are suppliers of such to the homeless people in the Richards Bay Central Business District. In August 2019, 2 homeless people were assaulted, 1 died as a result of the injuries sustained, and 1 was severely injured and hospitalized. Again, on the 19th August, members of the South African Police arrested 1 suspect for possession of dangerous weapon after a group was seen assaulting homeless people. Angry community members subsequently stormed the Richards Bay police station demanding the release of the suspect. They were dispersed and 8 arrests were made. However, the group mobilized again and blocked roads in the CBD. The SEPs deployed POP, resulting in the further 22 arrests. The suspect appeared in court on 21st August 2019 and were remanded in custody until 27th. They have appeared again and remanded again, some release. Several meetings were held at Umhlatuze involving various stakeholders, including the SEPs, the Department of Community Safety and Liaising, the Department of Home Affairs, and the Umhlatuze Municipality, and the Richards Bay Taxi Associations were involved, which resulted in the diffusing of the situation. The community concern regarding drugs is being addressed. Intelligence-led operations are being conducted, targeting drug dealers in Richards Bay. There has been a marked decrease in the crime in Richards Bay since the homeless people have moved away from the area. Operations to address the concerns of the community and ensure public safety will continue, and the SEPS deployment have been increased. SEPS members from other stations and units within the cluster are being used as force multipliers. Detached POP members from other units have also been deployed in Richards Bay. At the present moment, that's the situation, Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Minister. The Honourable Majuzi.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Minister, follow up to that, what further steps will be taken against the police officers who ran away because they were ill-prepared for the situation in Johannesburg? And further to this, what will happen to those who have taken and forfeited goods to sell to other vendors and shops? And in terms of the recent diplomatic actions taken by the presidents of Rwanda, Malawi in not attending the World Economic Forum in our country in Cape Town, and in the cancellation of the Zambia Bafana Bafana match, what measures are being taken to mitigate further flare-ups of looting and protesting in our country? What is crime intelligence working on to ensure that we put an end to the attacks? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Well, the question of the president that are not coming here really is a diplomatic matter. It will be answered in that way. Mine, if they do come here, is to give them protection. If they don't come, life is easier. But the question of the police, if I'm not making a mistake, the honourable member is asking the police that in Joburg that retreated. They did not run, they retreated. Absolutely they did not. They retreated, which is a part of the training, which is a part of the orientation that when the situation does not favor you, that you retreat and you mobilize and you come back. Some of us who are trained, we understand the term, so you'll pardon us. Will pardon us that there is a difference between running and retreating. They went, they mobilized, they came back, and they did the very good job. They arrested the 640 people without a single bullet, without any rubber bullet, which means they were very much prepared for that. For those 9 police officers who stole the stolen goods, they have been arrested. You have seen the processes going forward. Most of them are on bail, but their trial is continuing. And for us, they are not just officers, they are criminals, and we'll treat them as such, as criminals when they break the law like any other criminal. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Whitfield.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister, given the recent escalation of violence committed against foreign nationals and the escalating scapegoating of foreign nationals using unverified information, will the Minister now instruct the National Police Commissioner to establish the National Joint Operational and Intelligence Structure in order to ensure a coordinated, intelligence-driven approach to the ongoing violence so that we can get to the root cause of the problem and deal with it decisively? If he will not do so, why is that the case?
The Honourable Minister.
Well, I would not instruct the National Commissioner to establish something that exists. The coordinating structure called NICOC exists that coordinates all the bodies of the intelligence in the Republic of South Africa. So if the member can just scratch around, understand that, he would not have a reason to ask this question. Having said that, indeed, we are looking at the matter, and I have half answered this question. that from the side of the South African police at the present moment, we are looking at the criminality of the matter rather than the xenophobia of the matter. For instance, there is this narrative to say the shops of the foreign nationals are burnt down. I visited where this thing started at GP. There is a long line of burnt shops. Shops that are burned there, your ShopRite, is your Jet, is your Pep, is your Yusuf. And the last time I checked, those were South African shops. So it's a criminality that is destroying the property, is looting from all other shops, and we have arrested, up to this morning at 6 o'clock, we have arrested 280 people for getting involved in such activities, and we believe that the matter will be going down, and the matter will be coming down, and surely we'll be working with communities and other departments to make sure that we work on the matter and come to an end. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Mafanya.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, the raid by police on foreign-owned shops at the Johannesburg CBD started this whole mess we are seeing in Gauteng, where Africans are targeted by criminal elements. What would you say to the view that these violent attacks on African nationals are state-sponsored? That at the center of it all is this government's hatred of our siblings from the rest of the continent. Number two, what measures are in place to safeguard the safety of South Africans in other African countries? An imminent retaliation by foreign nationals in their respective countries is looming. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, I just want to remind before the Minister responds that there's room for one supplementary question and not a number of supplementary questions. Honourable Minister.
Well, the last question, the Bible called Constitution instructed this minister to police within the borders of the Republic of South Africa. What happens on the other side is absolutely not much of the Minister of Police to look at it, except if there is a member that it has been approved from Republic of South African government going to the other country that the life is in danger. We will allow the South African police to accompany that member. But the question, what the Minister of Police is really doing about there, will be breaking the Constitution to go beyond to police the borders of the Republic of South Africa. The second one, that the police started by raiding people, no. We did not raid the people that are innocent and people that are keeping the law. We were raiding the criminals, and for that, we're not apologizing, and for that, we'll repeat again, we'll raid them time and again until they keep the law and make sure that the law of Republic is kept. Thanks.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Minister, in Johannesburg, with the challenges that were experienced, there was a very reckless statement made by David Makura when he said that foreign nationals will not be allowed to have any informal businesses in Gauteng particularly. What effect has that had with the violence in Gauteng?
The Honourable Minister.
I definitely don't have a barometer to measure that, how much damage happened on that matter. But what I know, the Premier of Gauteng did emphasize the point of correct papers and the legitimacy in the Republic of South Africa, which is always the point we are following. If you come to South Africa, respect the laws, get proper papers, follow all processes that South Africans follow, if you open business and all of that. But if you go beyond that and you don't follow the law, it regardless whether you are South African or you are foreign national, if you break the law, I repeat, we would not retreat and we will not apologize for that.
Honourable members, the next question, question 43, has been asked by the Honourable Beekes to the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Honourable Member, for the question. The official closing date for the purpose of Section 8(1)(c) of the Demobilization Act of 1996 was the 31st of March 1999. Initially, the closing date for the integration of various armed forces into the South African National Defence Force was to be concluded towards the end of 1996. However, due to unforeseen circumstances, such as persons who were in prisons, abroad, studying, it was moved to the right, that is to the 31st of December 2002. I thank you, Chair.
Is there a follow-up question from the Honourable Beekes?
House Chair, it's from Honourable Modise.
Will you do the follow-up on behalf?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Minister, concerning the process of integration of former non-statutory forces and other forces into the South African National Defence Forces, was the Department of Defence able to transform our defence force into a credible force that reflects the demographics of our country and promotion of gender parity in terms of rank and file? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
On a point of order, House Chair.
Yes,
Sorry,
Honourable Member.
but Honourable Beekes is in the House. So it was said last time of questioning time that we must indicate if the member is in the House. And she is in the House, and by right she should have taken the follow-up unless it have changed.
No, you are absolutely correct, Honourable Member. And there's also an expectation that the presiding officers are informed before the time that such an arrangement has been made for a question to be answered. And that usually happens in the absence of the member who has asked the question. So I would like the whips, ANC whips, to pay attention to that so that we do not see a repeat of this. It is not correct. Honourable Minister.
Chairperson, the South African National Defence Force came into existence on the 27th of April 1994 after the integration of the 7 former opposing statutory and non-statutory forces. The Department of Defence managed to successfully integrate these 7 forces that were hostile to one another into a single defence force that all patriotic South Africans hold in high esteem. The process was indeed fair and comprehensive. Of course, then the issue is whether, in fact, the South African National Defence Force reflects the demographics of the country. Yes, it does, at all levels, starting from the Military Command Council down to the lowest of the units of the SANDF. I thank you, Chair.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Shelembe.
Thank you, Chairperson. Minister, in the year 1992, the South African Cape Corps was disbanded, and its members were never afforded an opportunity to the integration process. And as a result, they were deprived their rights to access the benefits under the Military Veterans Program. Whilst APLA, NK, and SADF were favored by the process. Is the minister prepared to review and recognize the members of the old South African Cape Corps and give them an opportunity to the integration process and grant them the last chance, at least, and fair opportunity? If yes, when and how? I thank you.
Honourable Minister.
No, but Honourable Member, you know that you are asking a very unfair question. I've just indicated to you when the demobilization process was closed. Now, if you're saying we should allow for the South African Coloured Corps to be integrated, I don't understand what that means. Not only that, the Cape Coloured Corps was part of the South African Defence Force, right? They were not just part of the South African Defence Force. Some of them actually were integrated through the South African Defence Force and were actually given force numbers. So that now at this 25 years down the line, those who did not integrate should be integrated. I really think that it's an unfortunate question you are raising, and I think it's an unfair demand which you are making. Thank you.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Chairperson.
Mthokozo Sihlalo, Mhlonishwa. Ngesikhathi uhlanganiswa lembutho kuliqiniso ukuthi bakwazi ukucoshakala enhlangothini zombili lezi ngokomlando zazingaphandle ekudingisweni ziyolo lenkululeko. Kodwa ke uma ngabe umuntu elandela abazange bephathwe ngokulingana nangokufana sebengaphakathi embuthweni. Unalenselelo ke khona ukuthi kakhulukazi amalungu eAPLA awazange awathola ama promotions awafaneleyo ngendlela njengoba bekwenza kumalungu eMK. Umhlonishwa ungqongqoshe angathini lolu daba ukubhekela ngoba basekhona abanye abayingxenye abasakhulayo emsebenzini wombutho. Ngiyathokoza.
Honourable Minister.
Was the number, honourable member, but I think that's an unfair example you have used, because if there are any cadres who have performed very well and who have risen high up into the ranks in the South African National Defence Force, it is APLA members. Maybe you should have used a different example. They have done extraordinarily well. In fact, one of the recently retired generals who are responsible for the logistics of the South African National Defence Force is General Nongonyani, who has done extremely well. And those who are now out of the system are people who have retired, and most of them retired as generals, precisely because of the advantage they had during the liberation struggle of having trained in different countries, including in conventional warfare. So that example is an unfortunate one. Thank you.
Then the last follow-up question will be asked by the Honourable Holomisa.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honourable Minister, I think it defends integration yayo ihambe kakuhle samile. But akufunekanga sixokisa abantu sifihle izinto apha. Indaba edibene ne-Force Defence Force service numbers ile ikhalelwa ngamajoni almost every day xa sijikeleza kwezinkampu. Now deske nibe ne-force numbers eziyi-1 nini niziphelise into yoba lo wayese kwi-SADF, lo waye ku-APLA, lo waye ku-MK, lo waye kwi-Home TDF. Why ningenzi one force numbers? Because kuthethwa ngaloo nto qoka siya kwezinkampu. Uthi ndiyaxoka.
The Honourable Minister.
General, I can't say you are clocker because it is true that we have different force numbers. However, if you are suggesting that it's about time now, 25 years down the line, that we actually integrate the system.
On a point of order, Chairperson. The Defence Service Commission recommended that Tibanisa as forces ungaba discriminating in numbers because aba promote abanye. Sanuxoka.
I know, that's an insult, General.
But I withdraw.
Withdraw, thank you very much.
Continue, Honourable Minister.
No, but the point is,
Order, Honourable Members.
it's a matter which is being considered, General. But the question I have for you is, how do you do it? How do you know that some of the people indeed were given force numbers prior to 1994. Then you have this grouping which has post-1994 numbers. Really, what difference does a number make? What is important is that they enjoy the same conditions of service as all other soldiers. There is no discrimination on the basis of the number which you have, but the reality is that indeed people have joined the Defence Force at different phases of the struggle and post our democracy.
Why are you rising, Honourable Holomisa?
She was asking a question.
No.
But I'm going to merely say, Honourable
Holomisa.
Apa,
On-
Honourable Minister.
Honourable Holomisa,
Awusixelele inyani
You must-
because
you must
ii-problems
now take your
ezivele
seat.
ezinkampini kukhalazelwa ii-promotions uba bayadiscriminatwa
Honourable member,
ngezi
please
numbers.
take your seat now.
Uyayazi loo nto sithetha ngayo.
Take your seat now. Honourable Minister, I don't know if you wish to respond to that.
no,
We've
really.
had the 4 supplementary questions. What
but-
the member did now was to ask.
Maybe I should deal with this issue of
You
discrimination.
can go ahead.
One thing the general is aware of is the fact that in terms of promotions within the service, in terms of ranking within the service, that is one, the Defense Force is one amongst the best. Never mind that. I mean, don't take about the complaints which people have. People may not be happy with the levels, the ranking which they have been given. But it's not as though there wasn't a process which was embarked upon for promotions and ranking of members of the SANDF. Unlike, for instance, what you have in the police, which was not done, which is now being raised. In the case of the SANDF, this was done, and you know this. The unfortunate thing is that not everybody is satisfied with the rank which was given to them.
Thank you,
That is the
Honourable Minister.
issue. Thank you.
That concludes that question. I will now move on to question number 8 that has been asked by the Honourable Breitenbach to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. I rise as a man in black in solidarity with the South African women and call upon South African men to stand up, that it will not be done in our name. And I also want to state, Chairperson, that I don't have any question with relation to gender-based violence. I've been misquoted to have said I'm calling for a death penalty. I want to say that that will be unconstitutional. I never said that. Immediately after the appointment of the special tribunal by the President in March 2019, the department commenced with the process of creating the administrative structure to support the tribunal and the drafting of regulations that the tribunal requires to carry out its mandate. The drafting of the regulations became a tedious and a protracted process that was not anticipated. The department has also sought assistance from a senior counsel to ensure that the regulations and the rules of procedure of the tribunal are watertight in order to avoid legal technicalities and loopholes that exposes various special tribunals with litigation. Our past experiences has shown that persons who have stolen and siphoned public funds through corruption and maladministration will not hesitate to litigate against the tribunal in order to frustrate its processes and efforts to recover ill-gotten gains. It is for this reason, House Chairperson, that more time and energy have been put in the development of the regulatory framework so as to keep any potential move to frustrate the work of the tribunal. The tribunal will become operational as the required regulations and the rules are published in the Government Gazette. I can assure this House that the drafting team is working steadfastly to finalize the regulatory framework for the tribunal to commence with the work without delay. Thank you.
Is there a follow-up from the Honourable Breitenbach?
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Minister, bearing in mind now that the tribunal is not going to come online in the foreseeable future, and while you're busy drafting rules and regulations, would you bear the following in mind? One judge has been appointed as the president of the special tribunal for a 3-year term. Additional judges have been appointed to sit on the tribunal, but they are also sitting judges in other divisions. So what provisions are in place to ensure that the effect that this will have on court rolls in those divisions, as well as on the role of the tribunal, is mitigated? And would it not be more productive to second judges to the tribunal for fixed periods instead?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. The tribunal will start operating in the foreseeable future. I can assure the House that that is going to happen very soon. And we have put these measures to ensure that the judges are able to focus on their work. You will remember, Chairperson, we have got experience with the land court with regard to it not having permanent appointees. And this country is facing a serious issue of corruption and money that has been siphoned. So you need people who are dedicated, who are going to give full-time attention to these matters. So it is going to operate. These members who have been appointed are going to do their job, and also it will enable us to expedite the issue of the recovery of the money. That's why we need full-time capacity. Thank you very much.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Aris.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Minister, the misappropriation of state funds was done by all of those that did serve under the Zuma administration. Some of those are pretending wholly under the Ramaphosa regime. Pretend if they never work with Zuma and they still defend Zuma. What guarantee can you give these South Africans that the stolen state money will be recovered, the public money, and it will not be done in a factional way? It will not be done even those that are in the Ramaphosa regime, that they will be brought to book. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Honourable House Chairperson, no one is above the law in this country. It doesn't matter where you come from. The money is going to be recovered from wherever and whoever is involved in the siphoning of the money. And this will be done without
Order,
fear.
Honourable Members, order.
This will be done without any fear, favour or prejudice to anyone. Thank you.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Swart. Order, Honourable Members, order.
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, rising from your response, Honourable Minister, the ACDP welcomes the establishment of the Special Tribunal. We regret, however, that it has taken so long given the extent of state capture and corruption that has taken place, but we do appreciate the need to ensure that the regulations are tight and that they are not subject to further litigation. We are also acutely aware of the dire financial constraints that our courts are facing. Will the Honourable Minister give the House the assurance that the Special Tribunal will be given sufficient capacity, i.e. will it be fully funded to operate optimally? We are fully aware of the challenges that our courts face, as I indicated, and the Special Tribunal must be able to speedily hear SIU matters when they are able to kick in. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. I am happy that the Honourable Member recognized that if we do it in haste, the tribunal will be shooting itself in the foot, and we need to ensure that all proper considerations are put in place, due diligence, and ensure that all the regulations are in place so that the tribunal is not frustrated by litigation. Some of it may be frivolous, because when you deal with issues of corruption, the people you are dealing with are well-funded and well-resourced. They are going to get the best. We need to stand ready and assure that the processes are waterproof and watertight. It needs indeed full-time capacity, and we are giving it all the support that the tribunal needs to start functioning. And I can assure the House that it will start very soon in the foreseeable future.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Simbang.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I do appreciate the fact that the Minister is speeding up the setting up of the tribunal. And I have no doubt that this will go a long way in making good progress in the entity. However, what is lacking in the NPA is not only this tribunal, there are many other challenges And I would like to prioritize the question of the budget. This department is lacking in funds, and I would like to know from the Minister, how is he helping NPA to get sufficient funds to make sure that it is fully operational? I thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. It's a different question, but I will answer it. We are in the process of helping the NPA. The Director General and the Director General of the National Treasury are in the process to find some ways to help the NPA. And we have already in the department find some money that has enabled the NPA to start the process, to start the special tribunal. And if I'm not mistaken, it's about 47 million that we have been able to find. And we are helping the NPA to get some kind of positions that will enable them to be resourced to do their job without fear or favor to anyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Members, question number 46 have been asked by the Honourable Nkosi to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The recent confirmation of signature by a majority of African countries onto the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is a very progressive step for the African continent and provides significant economic opportunities, not just for South Africa, but for the continent in its entirety. Our biggest trading partners in Africa are countries in Southern Africa as well as East Africa. This free trade area agreement opens up opportunity for us to find market opportunities in West Africa as well as in the Sahel in the north of Africa, where our trade relationships are rather limited. Of course, what we are hoping to do is have greater export of value-added goods. We're really looking to expand both our manufacturing and industrial capabilities in South Africa so that we become a truly effective producer of quality goods and trader with the African continent. So we do see that this agreement will provide the Republic with opportunities to expand its export-led business activities. What is exciting, however, are the opportunities provided for other countries on the African continent, because the free trade area doesn't mean only South Africa benefits. It means we will also purchase goods from other countries on the continent. So this integration and industrialization that we've been talking about to a great degree as part of Agenda 2063 is going to be given a dynamic push by the agreement. Once implemented, there are a whole host of steps that we still need to undertake. But as the question poses, this does augur well for our economy and for growth of economies on the African continent. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Nkosi, do you have a follow-up question?
Thank you, House Chair. Thank you, Minister, for the comprehensive response. In view thereof, is there closer cooperation between the Department DECO and the Department of Trade and Industry to enable effective management of all processes related to the implementation of the agreement?
The Honourable Minister.
Certainly, Chairperson, the two departments are working very closely together. In fact, we were both departments and ministries present at the most recent extraordinary summit of the African Union, where the subject of discussion was the Continental Free Trade Area Agreement. So there is collaboration. We have to work very closely together. Finance or Treasury are also an important partner, because all the tariff setting and other measures of common payment systems, automated systems, and so on, would have to be led by those two departments in partnership with the Department of International Relations and cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Minister, given the fact that we are having a serious challenge in the country with foreign nationals and xenophobia, and with this trade agreement that have been entered, with Zambia and Nigeria already threatening to want to get rid of their businesses, South African businesses from them, from their respective countries, what impact is this going to have on South Africa and the benefits of this particular trade agreement, should this continue?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. The law enforcement agencies of South Africa are working very hard to ensure that we arrest all those that are involved in looting and attacks of foreign-owned businesses and assaults of foreigners from other African countries living in our country. And we must intensify these law enforcement efforts in addition to efforts we must undertake as both politicians and broadly civil society to encourage a greater understanding of the value of Pan-Africanism and social cohesion within our broader population. So I think we stand challenged to ensure that we achieve that level of understanding, that in the end, as Africans, we must stand as one if we are to confront the world successfully. I believe African leaders understand this, but we may not be doing enough as politicians or other leaders in society to make this something that our nations fully understand. I believe we stand or fall by the degree to which Pan-Africanism will be a success. And we need to convey that to our nation. We will survive by virtue of how well we do in ensuring that we trade well with Africa, we work and partner to develop our continent together, because South Africa as an island on her own cannot achieve progress. So we are working hard to address these matters. Countries on the continent that have African businesses present in them understand that South African companies are significant employers, do make a contribution to the tax base of those countries, do make a contribution to greater productivity, do make a contribution to revenue generation. So I think they appreciate the value, but they want us to see, they want rather to see us ensuring protection of their people in our country. So we have work to do, much as they also have work to do in industrialization.
The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Ntlangwini.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Minister, if the African Continental Free Trade Area does not at the same time strictly emphasize that the freedom of movement of goods and services in the continent must be that of African manufactured goods, then I fear we will be opening the continent as a dumping ground for goods that have been produced elsewhere. What specific actions are being taken in the country to promote manufacturing and production of South African goods? And what plans does your department have put in place to ensure that the continent doesn't become a dumping site of goods that are produced elsewhere and not in Africa? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you to the Honourable Nsangwini for this question, because the matter of Africa as a dumping ground for cheap goods was discussed very directly at the most recent summit of the AU, so we are fully alert to this being a problem. Hence, one of the first steps that are being looked at in terms of preparing for the operationalization of the agreement is to address the issue of customs and excise, and to ensure that at the point of entry, we are able to determine the origins of particular goods and have tariffs that address that origin. So this is part of the agreements that are contained within the decisions that have come out of the African Union. In terms of Africa-produced goods, clearly the tariff setting will address some of that. We want a free trade area. There'll be different tariff sets for a wide range of goods, but we are committed that our continent must become a base of productivity, of manufacturing, of industrialization. We want our own factories. We know that it is possible for us as Africans to produce a wide range of different textiles. We don't have to be importing from other parts of the world. We may very well have competition, which is important, but our goods must be of a quality that make them of greatest interest to African consumers. So we have work to do to ensure we have really good products. We also must understand as South Africa, there are aspects we'll give up so that other countries on the continent produce particular goods so that the trade is operational and fairly shared. But that matter of dumping, absolutely critical that we address it. Otherwise, we won't be competitive, nor will we address the core objectives that lie behind the free trade agreement.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next supplementary question is to be asked by the Honourable Bergman.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, would you agree at this stage that the foreign policy of South Africa for Africa is in meltdown? We cannot secure our borders. We're not stimulating the economy to ensure growth. In fact, people are fleeing other countries to come here for safety. And once trapped in our web, we're allowing criminals to loot and harm them and their belongings. We have disgraced ourselves. And as Honourable Imam has said, Zambia has cancelled the soccer match, Nigeria has sent a special envoy, and countries are alleged to be boycotting the WEF. So what, Minister, are we doing to allay fears of the other governments currently? I know you've spoken about the long-term plan, but currently now, in this week of panic, what are we doing to allay those fears? Thank you.
Honourable Minister.
Honourable Bergman, thank you, Chairperson. I wish you would ask a question that I would agree to. I'm afraid I can't agree with you on this one. However, the steps we're taking is to ensure that all our missions are in touch with the governments in which we're represented so that they do indicate to them the steps that we're taking. I believe Minister Cele spoke to those earlier, and you were in the room and heard what he said. He referred to the arrests. He referred to the fact that we have ongoing efforts to address and ameliorate the situation with which we're confronted. And of course, I would not agree that our foreign policy is in meltdown. It is not us as a government that is initiating the actions that we see out there. What we need to do is really focus much more cogently on our economy and ensure that we're taking the steps that give our people real opportunities and real livelihoods so that they don't feel they have to have this antipathy toward other Africans in our country. And we have to address the matters that Deputy Minister Nsunza referred to of ensuring that our immigration policy is exercised appropriately and assists us both in protecting our borders as well as protecting the integrity of our country. That gentleman, Chairperson, is in front of Mr. Bergman.
Yes, Honourable Member, you're blocking the line.
Rules. But I believe I have answered the question.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Much.
Thank you. Honourable Members, we now get to question number 47, asked by the Honourable Jantjie to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. The Honourable Minister.
House Chair, if you can repeat the question for me. The next one is question number 27.
47.
Thank you. Thank you very much, House Chairperson. The Maximum Center has been the source of controversial incidents since 2014, such as assaults on both offenders and officials, contraband prevalence, and lack of management diligence. The stabilization intervention that are indicated in response to this question has resulted in the curtailment of such activities at the Maximum Center. The regrettable incidents of the past weekend, which resulted in the injury of an official and the death of an inmate, occurred at the Medium B Correctional Facility, which houses offenders at a lower risk profile. This incident is currently being investigated by DCS management. The relevant bail protocols are implemented as a mechanism to reduce overcrowding in the remand detention facilities, such as requesting courts to reduce bail or amendment of the conditions of bail imposed in line with the Criminal Procedure Act. With regards to overcrowding at the maximum correctional centers, sentenced offenders are continuously transferred to other correctional facilities within and outside the region. Hence, overcrowding is managed at a manageable security level. The maximum center. A stabilization plan has been put in place from July 2019. This involved the deployment of a national task team consisting of highly trained officials in the security operations emergency support. This has had the effect of increasing the official to offender ratio, improving offender management, increasing searches on offenders, officials and members of the public, which resulted in the sales of drugs to the value of approximately 100,000 rands. Better securing the management area precinct, improving access control. Consequence management is being exacted on all officials found guilty of contravening laws of the country and the policies of the department. A national task team of 8 EST members has been deployed to ensure stability in the management area. In addition, 60 ex-officials have been re-employed and commenced on the 1st of August 2019, as well as 49 learners commenced experimental learning on the 19th of August, after completing 3 months theoretical training. 18 officials that have been on injury on duty are in the process of being placed alternatively within the management area. Collaboration with SAPS crime intelligence to combating illegal activities. With regards to the 39 state patients, 24 have been transferred to Komani Mental Hospital. Only 15 remains, but arrangements are in place to transfer them soon as the space is available. Plumbing, electrical repairs, and renovations will commence upon delivery of ordered materials. Procurement has been finalized of 5.6 million has been allocated for this immediate intervention. A comprehensive repairs and renovation project has also been registered. Patrolling and intensive searches conducted daily to minimize contraband in the correctional centers. Violence and assaults in the management area have been reduced to intensive searching and continuous patrolling of the facilities. Yes, it has been improved based on the interventions made above. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Janki, do you have a follow-up question? Just switch on the microphone.
Thank you, House Chair. Masibulele kumphathiswa ngalampendulo uyabonakala uba usemsebenzini. Just this morning, we heard from the department that the number of inmates far exceeds the beds that are available. In fact, the department told us that the subs combat crime and create a crisis for correctional services. The question, therefore, Minister, is given the fact that this has become a national crisis, how are we going to deal with it by building a social compact so that we're able to mobilize the entire society, because the problem goes beyond correctional services. Otherwise, the entire nation will be in jail if we don't deal with it.
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. We are expanding our initiatives to enhance partnerships with various community service structures like faith-based organizations, NICROs, traditional leaders, community development structures, and family structures. We also engage with communities in order to ensure that society welcome offenders in their communities after they've been rehabilitated in our cells. Mobilize business structures and other government departments as well to organize business to ensure that we create employment opportunities after the offenders have been rehabilitated and offered skills, but also some of the offenders are able to create employment on their own, as the skills they learn enables them to be self-employed, such as plumbing, boiler making, and the various skills that they have. All these elements are aimed at increasing the potential creativity of offenders in an attempt to reduce the repeat of being offenders, which is in terms also alleviate overcrowding. Thank you, House Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Moshalala.
Thanks so much, House Chair. Minister, one of the main reasons why...
Honourable Member, can you just hold? Honourable Members, may I ask you, those who are moving in and out, when the member is asking the question, please do not walk past the member because you break the line. Continue, Honourable Member.
I'm saying, Minister, one of the main reasons why prisons are overcrowded is the issue of overpopulation in prisons, due to the fact that detainees are reminded, who at the times are held in prison for close to 5 years or over 5 years. So, what is your understanding? What is your understanding of why it takes so long for criminals' trials to be concluded? Minister, and the other thing is, what do you think must be done to lower the load of our courts so that these cases can be concluded in time? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much for the question. There are various mechanisms that are put in place to deal with the backlog in terms of the case management. That includes a management committee that involves the judiciary, the NPA, correctional service, court management, that must deal with the court role. And this is also a part of our program of modernizing the judicial processes, our criminal justice system, in terms of having technology that must help us with the entire court role, including the inmates management. So the process, the cases are gradually being handled in a manner that is going to be expeditious. And some of them, unfortunately, the reasons of the delay are beyond our control. For example, there could be delays in terms of investigations. The police are still doing their own investigations. There might still be reasons of the laboratory. There are other reasons which are outside what we can term issues of our control. It's issues of concluding investigations. But where it is possible to conclude the matters and fast-track the process, the enhancement committees that are sitting in various provinces, they do their best to ensure that the court role does not have a huge backlog.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. The next follow-up question is to be asked by the Honourable Breitenbach.
Thank you, House Chair. Honourable Minister, St. Albans is a prison that has been judged a human rights abuse by the United Nations Human Rights Commission as long ago as 2010. Nothing has been done to improve the conditions at that prison since. It is practice to place that particular prison in what is referred to as lockdown over the Christmas period, which means offenders are locked up for 23 hours daily for almost 2 weeks due to a shortage of warders. This gives rise to the type of fatal incidents that have recently taken place there. In September, 1 inmate was killed and 1 warder was injured, and just last week, 3 inmates were killed. What is being done to ensure that as we approach December again, that will not be the case this year?
Honourable Minister.
As I have already stated, we have deployed members of the EST, which is a specialized team, to handle issues at St. Albans, 80 members of that team. And increased patrol, various issues that the United Nations have raised, including issues that have been raised by our courts, and the report of Judge Froneman. we have responded to such issues. And that's why if you look at the last incident, Honourable House Chairperson, it did not happen at the maximum facility. It has happened in the medium B, because on the maximum facility we have been able to squeeze out all acts of criminality and of impunity. So because that has happened, the offenders now shifted to the other side to conduct illegal activities. And I can state that because of the procedures that we've been able to put in place, such have been arrested, and there is stability as we speak today. Thank you.
Then the last follow-up question on this question will be asked by the Honourable Simang.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Mr. Minister, the cases that are cited in the judgment in question are quite serious indeed, including violence and abuse of drugs. One may also add the repeat crimes which result in released inmates going back to our centers within a short space of time. The question then is, while this is happening after a shift from a punitive approach to rehabilitation, the question is rehabilitation yielding the expected results? In other words, are we winning the war against crime by the use of rehabilitation? I thank you.
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Indeed, rehabilitation is yielding the desired outcomes. We are having about 17,000 inmates that are undergoing various skills. And as I've said previously, most of them, when they are released, they become economically viable and people who contribute positively into their society. But indeed, there are those that when they are released, they again commit crimes, which are isolated incidents that then give all the offenders a stigma of repeat offenders. But most of them, in their numbers, who have given skills in terms of farming, plumbing, boiler making, and the various skills, they are able to use them, including cooking, baking. These are members of the community who are looked at very positively. What we wish to call for is for communities to welcome them, work with them, so that these people become sustainable in whatever activities that they embark upon their release. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, we now go to question number 20 that has been asked by the Honourable Bergman to the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation. The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the department has already taken steps in respect to this matter by invoking the provisions of Section 14(3) of the Public Service Act, and a letter which relates to Clause 4.1 of the letter of transfer signed by Ambassador Kolwani. In terms of that section of the Act, I have decided that it would be in the public interest to transfer Ambassador Kolwani back to head office in Pretoria. A letter to this effect was sent to him on the 12th of August. We, in terms of the provisions of the law, allowed the ambassador an opportunity to make representations as to why he should not be transferred back. He responded, as is his right, in a letter at the end of July. After considering his representations, I decided to transfer him back to head office on the basis that it was in the public interest to do so. Because the matters revealed in the inquiry he gave evidence at were of such a nature that I believe they brought our government and country into disrepute. His transfer has thus been done in terms of the Act. He has 1 month's notice in order to return to the country and should be back here by the middle of September. Subsequent to that, he tendered his resignation from the department and will be resigning from service.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable Bergman.
Minister, thanks. That is good news. It actually stifles my next question somewhat. But, you know, to me it was alleged that the ambassador's position was given to Ambassador Kolwane as a demotion from his position. You know, government seems to insinuate that ambassador positions are given or handed out to guilty or faulty officials in the patronage system. Can the minister confirm that Batubile Dlamini is being considered by the president as an ambassador, and which other ex-ministers' applications are being considered? Thank you.
The Honourable the Minister.
I repeat, Chairperson, that I wish the Honourable Bergman would ask me a question I could agree to. I'm unable to confirm what he has said. I do not appoint ambassadors. It's a prerogative that resides with the President, and I'm sure he will make an announcement at the appropriate time. But seeing that I'm smiling, I'm sure you know why I'm smiling. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. The next follow-up question will come from Honourable Madlingozi.
Thank you, Chairperson. My Minister, if it was easy for someone who has abused his powers of the office in charge of the national key point to be whisked away and be made an ambassador, why did it happen? I know that he's been recalled now, but why did it happen, and how adverse are the misdeeds of others who are promoted, and how safe is our country?
Honourable the Minister.
Honourable Chairperson, Honourable Madlingozi, our country is safe now. I've taken the actions that we've indicated. I had not taken the actions that you referred to, but I believe what has been done by this government is what should be done. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. The next question, the next follow-up question will be from Honourable Swartz.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Honourable Minister, what is the Minister going to do with the officer in question once transferred back to the department, considering the serious nature of the reasons he's being recalled from posting as ambassador? Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Chairperson and Honourable Swartz, I don't have to do anything. The former ambassador, soon-to-be former ambassador, has resigned.
Thank you. The last follow-up question will come from Honourable Mokausa.
House Chairperson, it clearly shows that our country is not safe. Minister Naledi Pandor was a minister back then. Why didn't she take necessary steps at that time to make sure that what happened, the person who did that has been taken care of, because she was in cabinet?
Honourable the Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson. I operate on the basis that the members who stand before the Chief Justice and swear oath to uphold the Constitution have read it before they so swear. As I indicated, the president appoints diplomats, not cabinet, not ministers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, order. We now move to question number 23, asked by the Honorable Pambo of the EFF to the Minister of Home Affairs. Honorable Minister.
Thank you.
Deputy Minister will take the questions. Thank you.
Thank you. The answer is no. The IEC did not make any request to the Department of Home Affairs before the 2019 national elections for additional funding.
Honorable Minister, thank you. The follow-up question by Honorable Pambo will be taken by Honorable Mkalipi.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, but he's not a minister, he's a deputy minister. Please
said
correct
it.
that.
I corrected, you didn't listen.
Yeah, don't get your high hopes, Chief. Deputy Minister Mzuza, IEC is accountable to you, to your department. After it was discovered that this ink was removable, what action did you take, if you did? If you didn't, why? Because it nearly collapsed elections in South Africa when it was discovered this thing was removable. Secondly, who have been fallen in the Department of Home Affairs? If not, why? Do you love this country or do you hate this country? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Minister, before we respond, I just want to remind members about the one question, follow-up question rule. Continue, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Can I first seek clarity around the issue of fallen?
Yes, Sir Chairperson, I'm very glad to give you a clarity. You're supposed to make sure that that official in your department who are supposed to do his or her job in appointing that person who are supposed to make sure that ink is not removable, you're supposed to be fallen in the department. Did he or she fall? If not, you are going to fall.
Honorable Deputy Minister, order, honorable members, order.
No, thank you. I almost got confused if the honorable member was talking about movies like The Eagle Has Fallen, London Has Fallen, but later I got to understand this question. I must cite that...
Order, Chair. Chairperson, you are not playing here. Oros has fallen in this parliament.
Honorable member,
Oros, your president.
Honorable members, when you ask questions, you expect answers. Can we allow the Deputy Minister to respond?
Yes, we expect the questions also to be dignified so that we can answer in a dignified manner. I must emphasize
on a
that
point of order.
On a point of order, yes, honorable member.
We can throw insults as well, but we are not going to be insulted. Can that deputy minister withdraw what he just said?
Honorable
he
member.
He cannot say the question is not dignified.
Honorable member.
He cannot say that.
Honorable member, I hear you.
He cannot say that. He cannot insult the DSG. He can't do that.
Honorable member, please take your seat. Can we get a response, Honorable Deputy Minister?
No, he must withdraw the statement he made.
Minister, no.
He must withdraw it.
No.
No, he must withdraw. It's an insult.
I don't take it.
Thank you, Chair.
Continue, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair. I think the fact that we have the IEC as an independent electoral commission means that the Department of Home Affairs exercises no control over the department. That is the first issue that we must say. That's why we have it as an independent electoral commission. What we do as Home Affairs and what is our responsibility is to house the financial structure in the vote system for Department of Home Affairs. I note the question as asked by the member. I will then forward it to the IEC and offer a written response in that regard. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be asked by Honourable...
Chairperson,
Bruce.
Chair. Order.
Honorable Mkhalipi, yes?
I forgive him, he's still new.
Okay.
IEC is an entity
Honorable
of Home Affairs. IEC is
Thank you,
accountable to you, Chief.
Honorable members, Honorable Mkhalipi, don't do that. Don't do that, Honorable Mkhalipi. Please don't. Honorable Ross, it's your time.
Thank you, House Chair. Deputy Minister, the IEC already engaged with Treasury to seek additional funding for a system that would assist with registrations and with the double voting. Now, we've been told that the double voting wasn't such a big deal, but now that people know about it, it becomes a crisis, it becomes a big risk. So would you agree, Deputy Minister, that if this funding is not made available by Treasury, that the integrity of the next election will be compromised, with outdated zip-zip machines potentially failing and not able to catch double voting as it happens?
The Honorable, the Deputy Minister.
Thank you. Indeed, the IEC is in discussions with Treasury to resolve some of the baseline issues with regards to their budget, and such a provision can be made by Treasury. In terms of the impact on their operational efficiency is an issue that we'll have to then check with the IEC and then respond to you in writing properly.
Thank you. Honorable Mentor, you ask the follow-up question now.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to ask the 35 Plus Youth League. Deputy Minister. No, you are not going to say anything. We were insulted in front of you. No one said anything. Deputy Minister, a service provider which was paid with the appropriation through your department to the IEC produced or sold this country and your department a fake ink. What happened to that service provider? Was it blacklisted? What happened to the person who authorized the fake ink and the fake the procurement of the service provider, the IEC, and the Home Affairs?
Thank you. Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you. I think I must repeat myself with regards to this, that there is something called a vote structure, and the Department of Home Affairs hosts the vote of the IEC. We are not responsible for transactions that are done by the Independent Electoral Commission. The Independent Electoral Commission does its own transactions, and if there are issues that members are raising with regards to the operations of the vote pertaining to the vote of the IEC, we'll have to defer those issues to the IEC to provide us records. And I hope members will go and learn more about what we call a vote structure in government.
Thank you.
Point of order.
Honorable Mente.
Can I address you, Chair?
Honorable Mente.
I think the office of the Deputy President in terms of governments must do proper orientation in appropriation. What is an entity?
Thank you. Honorable Whitefield. You are fine. Okay, then we are done with this question. The next question will go to, it's question number 35, asked by Honorable Mapatwe to the Minister of Police. Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson. The answer is yes. An operational plan is being developed to get ready for the Western Cape to deal with the withdrawal of the South African National Defence when the time comes, to continue to police the Western Cape. B, good coordination and daily planning with integrated role players, shifted and reduced crime patterns. The overall impact of the presence of the SNDF has enhanced the visibility of law enforcement and better working conditions. Thanks.
Thank you. The Honorable, Honorable Mapatwe. I've not been informed of anyone who will be taking charge of the question. If I don't have anyone, then I pass. The next follow-up question will come from Honourable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Minister, there's an anticipation that you are going to have to shed 23,000 jobs based on budget cuts to your department. That's the first thing. You've admitted that the South African National Defence Force, by assisting, has brought some calm in the area and reduced the levels of crime. They are expected to leave shortly. Now, with your budget cuts, together with the underestimation of the problems of gang violence in the Western Cape particularly, how do you intend dealing with those, with such a huge cut in numbers as a result of the budget, with the problems persisting?
Thank you very much, the honourable member. Chairperson, the cut will be very much considerate. We'll work when the time comes. We'll work on the understanding that operational matters of policing are not going to be affected by that cut. And we'll continue as we are continuing training, 5,000 students this year, 7,000 next year, 7,000 the other year. We'll make sure that we fit those places where people take early pension, go home, and those that are taking the same pension, especially from the administration, we fill those posts with the operational people. We don't think that the operations of the South African police would be very much affected. Thank you very much.
Thokoze Mhlonishwa. Olandelayo umbuzo ozobuya kumhlonishwa Whitfield.
Thank you very much, House Chair. Minister, Section 13(7) of the SAPS Act gives sweeping powers to the national or provincial police commissioners to act in a systematic fashion by cordoning off specific areas for no more than 24 hours in order to conduct targeted search and seizure operations in known gang hotspots. Given the imminent departure of the SANDF on the Cape Flats, will the Minister now instruct the National Police Commissioner to implement Section 13(7) of the SAPS Act in order to proactively cordon off and search areas affected by gang violence? If not, why not?
The Honourable Minister.
Chairperson, the National Defence Force, SANDF, joined the police that were on operations to support the police to continue with their operations. When they withdraw, the operations will continue. So there is no need of instructing the National Commissioner, who have long started with the operations in the Western Cape. I have mentioned these operations, Operation Thunder, that we have brought more people from outside the province and more cars. Operation Anti-Gang Unit, that started here, and the support finds us on the way. We are working with the support. As they withdraw, we'll continue with operations. Thank you.
Siyabonga Mhlonishwa. Olandelayo umbuzo uzovela kuMhlonishwa Shembeni.
Honourable Minister, one of the reasons why the South African Police Service is unable to combat crime in the Cape Flats is that some of these police officials are found to be corrupt, leaking the information, the operational plans and the information to the gangs or the gang leaders. Why? Because they are on the payrolls of these gang leaders. What are you doing to eliminate those corrupt officials in the SAPS? Thank you.
Thokoze Mhlonishwa. Mhlonishwa Ngqongqoshe.
Well, thanks, Honourable Member. I don't want to thank you because they accuse me of patronizing you as I'm saying thanks to I like the way the question was put, that some members of the South African police are corrupt. That's the way the question should be always asked, rather than say South African police members are corrupt. Because there are those that are good, doing very good job, including in Western Cape. In Western Cape, we've got a long list of life sentences of gangsters and the chiefs of the gangs. As we speak at the present moment, there are 20 of the middle management of gangs that are appearing before the court. Since the operation lockdown has started, we have arrested 1,004 of those gangsters and outstanding cases, which are 806 outstanding out on bail and all that. 403 of them are locked inside and some of them are appearing in court. Therefore, there are good police officers that are doing their job here. Those that are not doing their job will deal with them, as I've said before, like ordinary criminals. As it happened in one operation where the young two men, which happened to be the anti-gang unit, where they were raiding, instead of dealing with the work, they stole 15,000 rand from that house. We have arrested them, they're undergoing the case, we'll send them to prison. So some are doing good job, some that are bad, very few, will deal with them accordingly and as criminals. Thanks.
Thank you. The last follow-up question will come from Honourable Patrain.
Thanks, Chair. Honourable Minister, is there any interdepartment cooperation and support between police and defence? Thank you.
You got it, Honourable Minister?
I was still listening. I didn't get it very well. If I think is what I heard, the answer is yes.
Thank you very much. We now pass, and then we now go to question number 48, asked by Honourable Lehwase to the Minister of Home Affairs. Honourable Minister. The Honourable Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair. The business requirements and functional specifications were developed and signed off. The end-to-end system has been developed inclusive of integration to the government printing works. For the printing of the cards will be finalized this financial year. The cards have been designed and procured accordingly. We are planning to start the rollout process during the 2020-2021 financial year.
Thank you very much. I am informed that the follow-up question for Ms. Lehwase will be taken by Honourable Muyala.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Deputy Minister, noting the progress made thus far in issuing of smart card IDs to South African citizens, does the department have timelines for rolling out live capture system for smart card ID for people granted refugees status in our country? And if not, when is the department planning to roll out smart card IDs to refugees living in South Africa? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister. Honourable Mkhalip, I see you miss each other from the Youth League, so don't disturb us. Continue, Honourable Member.
Sorry, Chairperson. No, I think there's no missing chair. These people couldn't keep
Honourable Member, please. I didn't expect your answer. Please sit down. Sit down. Continue, Honourable Deputy Minister Nzunza.
Thank you, Chair. As indicated, the end-to-end system development, which includes the integration with the government printing works, because the government printing works is the one that is ultimately responsible for the actual printout, will be completed this current financial year, and then in the next financial year, we'll then start issuing these particular cards to the said refugees. That will be in the 2020-2021 financial year. Those are the timelines that we are dealing with. Thank you very much.
Sithokoze. Mhlonisha Dlua, isikhathi ngesakho.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Deputy Minister, as you are aware that connectivity is a huge problem within Home Affairs. And it is reported in our recent portfolio committee that when it comes to downtime, we have lost more than 8,000 hours in production. And as a result, we have also lost 207,000 smart cards that were supposed to be printed. And you and I know we had this conversation that the elephant in the house is CETA. Now my question is, what are you doing to address the downtime and also the online problems as far as the connectivity is concerned? I thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Minister.
Thank you, Chair. Indeed, we have problems with regard to connectivity. That results into a number of hours being lost as a result of the unavailability of the system. In the immediate term, we are in engagement with CETA to request them to improve the connectivity and ensure that we offer a more detailed service. Unfortunately, the issue of connectivity is an issue that we rely strongly on CETA, and our role is to engage CETA to make sure that they improve the service, and that is exactly what we are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. The next follow-up question will come from Honourable Ketsi from the EFF.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Deputy Minister, I think you will agree with me that the antagonistic attitude that your department's officials continue to have on African migrants is the one that is causing the problems we are experiencing today in this country. And perhaps we must ask you that in terms of the short and medium plans that you have to really address the situation of, the smart card IDs for these migrants. Perhaps we must get that when 35 and a half years of age.
Honourable Deputy Minister.
No, thank you, Chair. I know my age, and I'm comfortable in my age, and I'm not 35 and a half or anything like that. I've got an age. As indicated, Chair, one, we do not discriminate against our African brothers and sisters. In fact, South Africa has waived visas for most of the SADC countries, with the exception of DRC. We have recently even went further by waiving other visa requirements for other countries. We actually do not even entrap our asylum seekers who are seeking to be refugees. We integrate them to society. All that we are asking for is that everyone who comes in the country must do so in a legal manner. In fact, we are very advanced now in assisting refugees by making sure that they get the smart card IDs, and we have explained the plan towards making sure that by 2021, by the financial year 2020 and 2021, we issue them with the relevant set of documentation. Thank you.
Thank you. The last follow-up question will come from Honourable van der Merwe.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. Honourable Deputy Minister, so recently you said that your department confirmed that not even 1 out of 6 asylum seekers seeking refuge in South Africa are granted refugee status. But does your department have a tracking mechanism in place to ensure that those whose refugee status is denied are returned back to their countries? Because what we often see is people will come into the country, they claim asylum, they apply for refugee status, they open businesses, and once you've denied them that status, they continue running their businesses illegally. And that is a case that we often find, for example, at the N1 City shopping mall, but also I think it's what has led to some of the frustrations that we've seen on the streets of Johannesburg and Pretoria of late. So please, can you list the interventions that your department takes in this regard?
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The Honourable.
Thank you. We do keep records. That I must make clear. Secondly, our process is such that if a person is not happy with the outcomes of their application, they can appeal to relevant bodies so that there is proper verification. The problem that we face with regards to the number of applications is people who come into the country saying they are refugees, whereas they are actually commercial immigrants. And as a result, that makes our process to be stifled, and it makes us not to process all the applications with speed it deserves. And that is why we always plead that people who are here for commercial reasons, they must go through the commercial process. And those who are applying for refugee must be legitimate so that we can process their claim, their requests easily. But those that are unsuccessful, we do keep records of those. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We now move to question number 44, asked by the Honourable Mutle of the ANC to the Minister of Defence and Military Veterans. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Honourable Member. The status of aircraft maintenance measures in the Department of Defence is not at the required level. This obviously affects the operational capability of the South African Air Force negatively. What measures have been put in place? The Air Force and AMSCO have since 2017 embarked on an effort to change the contracting model and to build an internal and local capabilities to support our systems. A case in point is the change in the maintenance approach to the Inkwazi, which is the BPJ, which is now managed in-house together with a state-owned entity, the South African Airways Technical. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honourable Mutle.
Ke a leboga, Chair. EFF le kae? Ne le re?
Honourable Mutle, please ask your question. This
Modula stulo, potšišo ya ka e ka mokgo. Minister, ka ga re tseba nna le wena gore mašeleng a betšeng kgoro ya gago ga a nela. Jwale o tlo netefatša jwang?
Honourable Mutle, just wait. Honourable Minister, are you okay with the language or are you still putting your earphones on? Can he repeat? Okay. Just wait. Okay, please. You can do it, yes. Can we restart the time, please? I realize the minister would struggle to hear. Thank you.
All right,
Honourable Mutle, now it's your time.
Ke a leboga modula stulo. Potšišo ya ka e re ka gobane re a tseba nna le yena minister le ka moka ga rena gore mašeleng a betšwego kgoro ya gage a nyana. Jwatše kgoro ya gage e tlo dira jwang go netefatša gore didirišwa tšeo go bolelwago ka tšona fa difofane gore di a servicega gore badiriši ba tšona maphelo a bona a bolokege le go netefatša gore mošomo wa kgoro ya gage o tšwela pele e tlo ba ikemišeditše go tla go iphethagatša jwang ka fase ga kgatelelo ya mašeleng e leng gore kgoro ya gage e lebane le yona.
Ra leboga. Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Member. First, there is a need to have a viable defence industry with the capacity to maintain the deeper level maintenance of air assets. At this stage, the defence industry is struggling, with Denel being the major player in this situation. And I must say that at this point I should commend the Minister of Public Enterprises for the cash injection for Denel, because indeed this will impact positively on the entire defence industry of the country. Yes, there is a need to have a viable technical capacity which operates at an optimal level within the Air Force itself. But of course, at this stage, we have a challenge of enough engineers and technicians. And of course, we suffer from long lead times to deliveries of spares. The money allocated for the actual parts, for the spares, for the aircrafts, yes, it is there, it is ring-fenced. Yes, there are challenges of budgetary constraints for the South African National Defence Force, but in the main, it has to do with what I've already alluded to, which is capacity. Thank you.
Ra leboga. Putshišo ya tlaleletšo e latelang e tla botšiša ke Kgoši Qebekhulu.
Ngithokoze Sihlalo. Cishe ngangasukuma ngabe ngezwanga ngifaka endlebeni ukukhuluma. Anyway, Honourable Minister, my question firstly I must thank the Minister for having answered the question in a very accepted and true manner, the challenge of the aircrafts. But I wanted just to find out, Honourable Minister, whether is there a policy in your department which deals with the disposal of outdated aircrafts, as it once happened, or it was once written in the media that the department once donated the spares of the helicopters to the Zimbabwean government. Is there a clear policy on disposal of the outdated machines, if I could say? Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Yes, there hasn't been a disposal of aircrafts lately. But the matter you are raising about giving some helicopters to the government of Zimbabwe, that was some years ago. And of course, the helicopters which were given to them at the time were helicopters which were not serviceable, because Zimbabwe does have the capacity for engineers within their own air force. They have enough capacity for pilots, including generally mechanics. They are a highly skilled nation. And when we therefore gave them the helicopters at the time, the idea was that they would be able to, firstly, maintain, repair, maintain, and service all of the helicopters which at the time were being given to them. But for now, we have not disposed of the assets.
Thank you. Honourable Thring, your follow-up question.
Thank you, House Chair. While maintenance of our aircraft cannot be compromised, Minister, on our recent oversight visit to the now infamous Waterkloof Air Force Base, it was brought to our attention that there are numerous sinkholes on and around the base. Is the Minister aware of these sinkholes where the Air Force Base is built on dolomite rock features? And if so, what are the long-term sustainable and cost-effective solutions that are being provided to ensure that risk is minimized? Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Honourable Member. Yes, I'm aware that there are sinkholes and that there is dolomite in the area. However, it is not a matter that you can deal with overnight. Remember, this is a new thing we've been aware of. All along, we have been utilizing Waterkloof, and I'm sure you are aware that even the renovations of Waterkloof and the new, some of the new facilities, including the runaway, it's a new structure. I don't know how it would have been, the people missed it at the time, that in fact this is a dolomite area. So it's not going to be a matter of packing up and leave the area immediately. Some work would have to be done, and unfortunately, this happens at a time when there are fiscal constraints in the country which affect and impact negatively on the Department of Defense.
Thank you. The last question will come from Honourable Mentor.
Apologies, it's for my colleague.
Okay. Who? Honourable who? Changeani. It's your time.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, the South African Army is in serious state of decay because of the inability to secure the budget. It needs to secure the borders. Patrol oceans, respond to disasters, and take part in peacekeeping operations. What impact has the trimming down of the budget had on ability to the South African National Defence Force to maintain its fleet? How will you work around the budget limitation to still ensure that the SANDF is able to protect the borders of our country?
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. I wouldn't say it is in a state of decay, but obviously there are challenges which are as a result of our inability to secure adequate budget for some of the things which we would want to do. Now, you are raising matters such as peacekeeping, you are raising issues of training, you are raising issues of humanitarian support, disaster management. It is true that to a certain extent they are affected. But the one area which is a big problem is the one you are concerned about, which is border control and border management. We are not responsible for border management, but we are responsible for border control. And all of us acknowledge that there are porous borders precisely because, one, you need more companies to deploy on the borderline. We had put on standby, we had agreed on 22 companies, and currently we have 15 companies on the borderline. It all has to do with budgetary constraints which we have. The biggest worry we should have, all of us now, is the fact that the challenges of finance are likely to impact negatively on the core mandate of the South African National Defence Force as a result of the reduction in allocation for training. And if you have a defense force which is not properly trained and adequately trained, that will become a big, big problem in the future. But for now, I wouldn't say it's in a state of decay, but obviously we are in a case of we are desperate to have more money because indeed some of the deployments require of us to inject some money into the defense force.
Thank you, Minister. Then now we move to the next question, which is question number 18, asked by the Honourable Hon to the Minister of Justice and Correctional Services. Honourable Minister.
Firstly, it is important to note the regulations which strengthen the enforcement of maintenance orders and the operationalization of Section 11 of the Maintenance Amendment Act came into effect on the 5th of January 2018. Following the coming into operation of these regulations, the department commenced with the development of an IT system called an ICMS maintenance for maintenance purposes of recording the details of maintenance defaulters. Since the IT system became operational at the beginning of August 2019, a total number of 332 maintenance defaulters have been recorded in the system. The system cannot capture backlog cases from January 2018. This will require a manual process if required, and it will be a mammoth task. It is also important to note that the department is only able to record the particulars of maintenance defaulters in the system if maintenance beneficiaries comes to court to report to the maintenance officers that the person against whom an order has been made has failed to comply with such an order. The reason being that the department has migrated from an old manual payment system to an electronic fund transfer, and in many other instances, the court orders prescribe that payments be made directly into the beneficiaries' banking accounts. It is therefore not feasible to detect defaulters until such time that maintenance beneficiaries have come to report to the maintenance officers that they have not received their maintenance monies. Nonetheless, it is important for all to know that in terms of the Maintenance Act, failure to comply with a maintenance order by any person who has been ordered by the court to pay maintenance for a period of 10 days after the payment has become due will render such a person a defaulter. A warrant of execution against any such maintenance defaulter may then be initiated forthwith. The department has to date not yet submitted particulars of any maintenance defaulters to firms involved in determining the credit rating of persons. The reason being that, in terms of the regulation under the Maintenance Act, there are two instances under which the department must submit the particulars of such persons, namely, where the court has authorized a warrant of execution, order for the attachment of emoluments and attachment of the debt against the maintenance defaulter, against the maintenance and the court, at the request of the maintenance officer or the maintenance clerk authorized that such information be so furnished. Where a maintenance defaulter has been convicted of the offense of failure to comply with the maintenance order, if either of the two requirements specified in the regulation has been met, the department will henceforth furnish such to the firms that determine the credit ratings of the persons. The IT system we have developed will assist greatly in this process and in synchronizing to enable us to identify the defaulters immediately or in real time. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Hon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, Minister, about half of South African children grow up in a house where there's only one parent present. And anyone who's visited any of our courts at any given day would be left without a doubt that our maintenance system is stretched to breaking point every day. So, in fact, it's not good news to hear that this government took 4 years after this House approved the amendment bill to get to the point where the stopgap measures that we all agreed was contained in that amendment bill ultimately is on the point of being implemented. At the time, we were promised a complete overhaul of the maintenance system in order to assist those struggling parents who must drag a delinquent ex-husband or an ex-wife or an ex-partner to court. And since then, we've been met with a dead quiet about the review and overhaul of our maintenance system. When will that happen?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable House Chairperson. The process has already begun. The Law Reform Commission is looking at what Honourable Hon is asking, and soon we will be able to table a report in that regard and how it is going to be effected. Thank you.
Thank you. Honourable Paulsen, you are next.
Thank you, House Chair. Thank you, Minister. Minister, you spoke about the empowering provisions of the Maintenance Act, things that can be done when men don't pay their maintenance. Now, often the people who are at the receiving end of these defaulters are ordinary poor women. What is your department doing to tell women about the options available to them? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Honourable Minister.
The department runs campaigns in this regard in our various courts and in communities. And we also use some of the facilities with the Department of Social Development. Thank you.
Sithokoze. The next question will come from Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honourable House Chair. Minister, you make it sound very easy and simple, and I must admit it is not. You know, if you talk to people on the street, particularly the victims, they go to these courts, their opinion is that your officials are not sympathetic to their cause. All they're interested in closing the files. Matters are repeatedly postponed again and again. They cannot afford legal representation. And particularly, there are men that are hiding behind paying maintenance where they say they are self-employed or not employed. How do you evaluate your officers, maintenance officers, and particularly evaluate the matters before them, in particularly the cases in front of them, to see their performance, and how often do you do that?
Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Indeed, there are challenges with the system, which challenges arise in any new system that you develop. But the system is steadily improving, and all the processes are being checked in terms of to review and monitor the system. We do that on a regular basis through our IT processes and through the courts. We are also alive to what the honourable member is raising with regard to some of the officials that might not be doing it in line with the principles of Batupilu. And the department is engaging across the country to ensure that this system becomes a success, and also the officials do so with the empathy and the due diligence expected in terms of the Batupilu principle. So this, in a nutshell, this is a system that is still under development, which we will request some kind of help as and when issues are identified, they can be brought to our attention so that the system is improved for the benefit of everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. The last follow-up question will come from Honourable Breitenbach.
Honourable Minister, amongst the other innovations that were introduced with the new child maintenance law was the ability to blacklist and imprison defaulters. Do you know if anyone's been blacklisted or imprisoned? And also, cell phone records can be used to trace defaulters. That might be particularly useful in defaulters in this House. Do you know if such innovations have been put to use?
Honourable Minister.
No, not yet. It needs, as I've said, an improvement of the system so that we are able to track and find them in real time. As we have seen in terms of the 10 days period of waiting for the defaulter, it makes it also a bit difficult for the officials to track, because sometimes before the 10 days ends, the person may pay, and then to determine when and how is a defaulter. Those are the procedures that the department is still cleaning out, and will be able to effect the processes as we are able to clear that line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was the last follow-up for this question, and the time allocated to questions has expired. Outstanding replies received will be printed on Hansard, and that concludes the business of the day, and the House is adjourned.
5 minutes.